The knock came just as the sun was setting. 3 sharp, impatient raps on my front door that made my stomach drop. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, my entire past was standing on my porch: my father, Arthur, my mother, Beatrice, and my brother, Grant. Arthur's eyes scanned the property, the restored porch, the new garden. "You've done well for yourself, Nora," he said, his voice flat. "But it's a lot of house. Too much for just one person." Beatrice chimed in, her voice dripping with that fake, sugary sweetness I knew so well. "That's right, dear. You're all alone. No husband, no children to fill it up." Grant just smirked, leaning against the railing like he owned the place. "Face it, sis. You're just one person. You don't have a family. You OWES this house." I just looked at them. The familiar cold feeling crept up my spine, but I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just nodded slowly and reached for my phone. I just made one phone call. But to understand that call, you need to know about the first call. The one from 5 years ago. My name is Nora. I grew up in a small, manicured town in Pennsylvania where everyone knew your business, or at least they thought they did. Our family was, from the outside, perfect. My father, Arthur, was a local bank manager. To him, everything was a number on a spreadsheet. A person's worth wasn't their character, it was their credit score and their quarterly return. My mother, Beatrice, or B, was the permanent PTA president. Her entire life was built around one single, terrifying question: what will the neighbors think? And then there was Grant. My older brother. The golden boy. Captain of the football team, a business major, my father's perfect clone. He was the one they bragged about at barbecues. I was the other one. The quiet one. The artistic one. Every Sunday, we'd have the same damn pot roast dinner. My father would lecture us about 401(k)s and compound interest, while my mother would find a way to brag about Grant's latest internship acceptance. I'd just sit there, invisible, because my major, graphic design, was dismissed as that art crap. "You can't buy a house drawing cartoons, Nora," my father would say, not even looking up from his plate. Grant would snicker. My mother would just sigh and ask me to pass the potatoes. I wasn't the future of the family. I was just the garnish. The favoritism wasn't subtle, it was a blaring neon sign. When Grant turned 21, my parents bought him a certified pre-owned sedan for his career. When I turned 21, I got a $50 gift card to the Gap. "Grant needs the car for his internship, Nora," Arthur explained, like I was an idiot. "You just draw, right? You can do that anywhere." I learned early on not to expect anything. I worked double shifts at a campus coffee shop, smelling like burnt espresso and cleaning chemicals, just to pay for my classes at the local community college. I graduated on a Tuesday afternoon. No party, no dinner. No family in the audience. The only person who ever really saw me was my grandmother, Agnes. She lived 2 towns over and called me every Sunday, rain or shine. "Don't you let them dim your light, Nora girl," she'd say, her voice crackling over the line. "You see the world in color. They only see it in black and white. Don't ever let them make you feel small." She was the only one. And I should have listened to her sooner. After graduation, I landed a job as a junior designer at a tiny local marketing firm. The pay was crap, barely enough to cover my half of a drafty 2-bedroom apartment, but it was mine. I was proud. I was building something. Then, Grant called. He dropped out of his MBA program, too easy, he claimed, and was starting his own venture. "Hey sis," he said, all charm. "I need a quick logo. Just something simple." Just something simple turned into a full website. Then it turned into a complete branding package. Then, it was a 40-page pitch deck for his investors. I worked for 3 weeks straight, staying up until 3 a.m., drinking stale coffee, living on 7-Eleven sandwiches. I was exhausted, but I thought this was my chance. My chance to finally prove my worth, to show them my art crap was valuable, that I was valuable. Grant, this is a lot of work. I'd say, my eyes burning. Come on, we're family, he'd reply, annoyed. I'll pay you back when I'm big. I promise. He never paid me a dime. A week later, I saw my mother post photos on Facebook. The whole family was out at a fancy steakhouse, raising champagne glasses. The caption read, "Celebrating our brilliant son Grant and his incredible new venture. All his own hard work." My father was beaming with a pride I'd never, ever seen him show me. My name, the one who actually did all the hard work, was never mentioned. I wasn't family. I was just free labor. Then, the floor fell out from under me. The economy dipped, and our small firm was the first casualty. I showed up to work on a Monday, and the doors were locked. A paper sign was taped to the glass, closed permanently. No warning. No severance. My final paycheck bounced. My meager savings evaporated in 6 weeks. Rent was due. My roommate, seeing the writing on the wall, bailed and moved in with her boyfriend. I sold my laptop. I sold my grandfather's old watch. I was down to my last $40, and the eviction notice was taped to my door, bright orange and mocking. I was desperate. I was terrified. And I did the one thing I swore I'd never do. I made the first call. I dialed my parents' number, my hand shaking so hard I could barely press the buttons. "Dad," I choked out, tears already streaming down my face. I lost my job. I'm going to be evicted. I just need a loan. $2,000. Just to cover rent and a deposit. I swear I'll pay it back, every cent. I heard him sigh. That long, heavy, disappointed sigh that always made me feel 2 inches tall. "Nora, actions have consequences. We told you that art field was a dead end. Please," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I have nowhere else to go." Then I heard my mother's voice, sharp and cold as ice, as she grabbed the phone. "We can't. We just gave Grant $10,000 for his business trip to Vegas. You need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet, Nora." Click. They hung up. I stared at my phone. 10,000. For Vegas. But not 2, for me to survive. In a daze, I drove to their house. I don't even remember the drive. It started to rain. A cold, miserable drizzle. I pounded on the door, my clothes soaked, my hair plastered to my face. My father opened it just a crack. The warm light from the living room spilled out onto my wet shoes. "I told you." "No." Behind him, I saw my mother. She looked right at me, right into my eyes, and she shook her head, just once, before turning her back. The door clicked shut. I stood there, shivering in the pouring rain, and I realized it. I wasn't just jobless. I was homeless. And I was, for all intents and purposes, an orphan. Hey everyone, thanks for listening so far. If you're enjoying the story, please take a second to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what city you're listening from. Every comment helps the story reach more people. Thank you so much. Now, back to what happened next. The next 2 weeks were the lowest I've ever been. I lived in my '04 Honda Civic. I parked in the 24-hour Walmart parking lot, trying to blend in between the RVs and the delivery trucks. I'd wake up every morning at 5 a.m., freezing, every bone in my body aching from sleeping sitting up. I used the truck stop bathroom to wash my face with single-ply paper towels. I'd buy a $5 day pass at a 24-hour gym just to take a hot shower. I ate stale crackers and protein bars from the gas station clearance rack. I remember a security guard tapping on my window at 3 a.m., shining a flashlight in my face, telling me to move along. The shame was so thick I felt like I was choking on it. I was down to my last $5. I used it to buy a small black coffee at a Starbucks, just so I could sit inside where it was warm and charge my phone. Nora? I looked up. It was Sylvia, a friend from high school I hadn't seen in years. She stared at me, her eyes taking in my greasy hair, my dirty clothes, the desperation. Oh my God. Nora, what happened? I tried to lie. I tried to say I was fine, that I was just between places. But I just broke. I burst into tears, right there in the middle of Starbucks. She didn't ask another question. She just grabbed my arm. You're coming home with me. Right now. We'll figure it out. Sylvia's spare room felt like the Four Seasons. A real bed. A hot meal. Her boyfriend, Marcus, ran a small marketing company. He was kind, and he didn't ask any pitying questions. The next morning, I nervously showed him my portfolio on Sylvia's laptop, the work I'd thankfully saved on Google Drive. He scrolled through it, quiet. This is good, he said finally, pointing to the work I'd done for Grant. Really good. My junior designer just quit. The pay is crap, but can you start Monday? I almost cried again. It wasn't a career. It wasn't a corner office. But it was a job. It was a lifeline. I felt like I could finally breathe again. I was working, saving every penny, living on Sylvia's couch. I was starting to feel human. I'd been working for Marcus for 3 weeks when the call came. An unknown number. It was my grandmother's neighbor. My grandma, Agnes, was in the hospital. Pneumonia. I drove 3 hours, my heart in my throat. She looked so small in that hospital bed, but her eyes were still sharp. I knew you'd come, she whispered, grabbing my hand. I left you something, Nora girl. In the drawer. She pushed an old key and a thick envelope toward me. It's the cottage. It's not much, but it's yours. I built it with my own hands. Independence, Nora. That's the only thing they can't take from you. She passed away that night, holding my hand. At the will reading, Arthur, Beatrice, and Grant were all there, dressed in black, looking impatient. The lawyer cleared his throat and read, to my granddaughter, Nora, whom I trust, I leave my entire estate, including the cottage and my savings of $20,000. The room went silent. Arthur slammed his hand on the table. This is unacceptable. That house is family property. Grant jumped up. She must have been senile. We'll contest this. Beatrice just stared at me, her face twisted in rage. What did you do to her? You manipulated her. I stood up, my hand gripping the key so hard it dug into my palm. She trusted me. And you never even called her. And I walked out. I drove straight to Grandma Agnes's cottage. It was rough. Peeling paint, a leaking roof, and a garden that was a jungle of weeds. But it was mine. All mine. I quit my job with Marcus, he understood, and immediately hired me back as his main freelancer. I moved into the dusty cottage and used every single cent of that $20,000. I learned how to fix plumbing from YouTube videos. I learned how to patch drywall. I spent a whole weekend on the roof, replacing shingles until my hands were raw. I tore out the moldy, stinking carpet and found beautiful hardwood floors underneath. I painted the walls a warm cream. And I replanted her garden, one flower at a time. One afternoon, a man walked up the path, holding 2 cups of coffee. That's a lot of work for one person, he said, smiling. He owned the local coffee shop and bookstore in town. His name was Seth. He brought me a coffee and a sandwich. The next day, he came back and helped me fix a broken fence. I, in turn, redesigned his shop's menu and built him a new website. We didn't date, not really. We just built. We built shelves. We built a garden. We built a life. He was kind, he was steady, and he saw me. I started my own company from the spare bedroom. I called it Agnes Design Company after Grandma. At first, it was just small jobs, the local bakery's logo, the real estate agent's flyers. It wasn't easy. I hit a wall in my second year. I landed what I thought was my big break, a small boutique hotel chain. I poured months into their proposal, turning down other, smaller-paying gigs to focus on it. I was so sure this was it. At the last minute, the CEO pulled the plug. We decided to go with my nephew's firm, he said in a cold, one-sentence email. I was devastated. I was almost broke again. The panic of the Walmart parking lot, the cold of the Honda Civic, it all came rushing back. I thought I was going to lose it all. But this time, I wasn't alone. Seth held me while I cried. So, we eat ramen for a month, he said, kissing my forehead. You built this from nothing, Nora. You're not stopping now. He was right. I got up, I dusted myself off, and I went back to work. I stopped chasing the big clients and focused on the small businesses, the people I loved, the community. And this time, it stuck. Word of mouth is a powerful thing. 5 years passed. By the time I was 32, Agnes Design Company had a 6-month waiting list. I was successful. I was happy. Seth and I were engaged. We lived in the beautiful, restored cottage. Life was good. Life was quiet. Until that knock on the door. It actually started 3 weeks before the break-in. Like a ghost, a Facebook message popped up. It was Grant. Hey sis, long time. Heard you're doing well. We should reconnect. My blood ran cold. I hadn't spoken to any of them in 5 years. Against my better judgment, I agreed to let them visit. They showed up in my driveway, looking around like assessors. It's rustic, Beatrice said, deliberately ignoring Seth, who was standing right next to me. A bit big though, isn't it? For just you. It's wasteful, Arthur declared, hands on his hips. Your mother and I are thinking of retiring. This would be a good place. I actually laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. You're kidding, right? You are kidding. Get out. Now, Nora, don't be emotional, my father started. Get out. They left, stiff-backed and furious. But the look in my father's eyes, it scared me. It wasn't over. 3 weeks later, Seth and I were in Chicago for a design conference. My phone buzzed. It was my neighbor, old Mrs. Peterson. Nora, dear, there are people at your house. They look like your family. They're carrying boxes inside. My heart stopped. I fumbled with my phone and opened the Ring camera app Seth had installed. And I watched. I watched my father, Arthur, take a crowbar to my back door. I watched the lock splinter. I watched my mother, Beatrice, walk in and point at the walls, directing traffic. I watched my brother, Grant, haul suitcases inside. I called Grant, my hand shaking. Oh, hey, he said, casual as anything. Yeah, we moved in. Mom was right. This is too much for you. It's a family home now. Besides, you owe us. You stole Grandma's money. We drove 4 hours straight, in dead silence. When we got there, the lights were on. Their car was in my driveway. We walked in. It was a nightmare. My photos with Seth were gone, replaced by pictures of Grant. My office was already being turned into a second bedroom. But then I saw it. The one thing that made my blood boil. On the back porch, sitting in the damp, was a cardboard box. Inside were my grandmother's ashes and her old journals. They had thrown her out. Arthur, Beatrice, and Grant walked into the living room, looking smug. "You're back early," Arthur said. "Doesn't matter. We're here now. This is our house." "You're just one person," my mother sneered. "No family. You owe us." I looked at the box on the porch. I looked at their smug, entitled faces. And the shaking stopped. All the fear, all the hurt from the last 5 years, it just vanished. And it was replaced by a cold, hard calm. I smiled. "You're right," I said. "It doesn't matter." I pulled out my phone. And I made the second call. "Hello," I said to the 911 dispatcher. "My name is Nora. My estranged family has broken into my home at 123 Willow Creek. Yes, I am in danger. And yes, I have them all on video. The cops were there in 10 minutes. 2 cars, 4 officers." Arthur immediately tried to lie. "Officer, this is a terrible misunderstanding. We're her family. This is our house." I didn't say a word. I just handed my phone to the lead officer and played the video. The one of my father with the crowbar, prying open my door. The officer's face went hard. "You have 20 minutes to get your property and vacate," he said to my father. "Or you will all be arrested for breaking and entering." "Nora! Please!" Beatrice shrieked, finally dropping the act. "We have nowhere to go. You can't do this." I looked her dead in the eye. "That's not my problem." They scrambled, grabbing their bags, shouting at each other as the officers watched. And then, as if on cue, the heavens opened. It started to pour. I stood in my warm, dry doorway and watched the police escort my family, soaked to the bone and shivering, out to their car. The door clicked shut. It was quiet. It was mine. They got charged with breaking and entering. They pleaded guilty and got probation and a restraining order. Seth and I got married in Grandma's garden that fall. 6 months later, an unknown number called. It was my mother. Nora. She was sobbing. "Your father is sick. Grant's startup failed, he's in so much debt. We're losing the house. I need $5,000. Please, Nora, help me." I was silent for a long moment. I looked across the room at Seth, reading by the fireplace. I looked at my dog, asleep at my feet. I looked at my safe, warm home. No. I hung up the phone and blocked the number. I finally felt free, like the lock on my life had finally clicked into place. But tell me, was I wrong? Should I have at least listened to my mother's full story? Or was I right to hang up on the family that left me in the rain? Thanks for listening to my story. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. We really appreciate your support. See you next time.